Hello guys, this is your friend and we are back with a new fanfic. Which is what if Naruto was become Hokage before the Chunin exam part 1. And if you enjoy this fanfic then please press the like button and please subscribe as much as possible so that we can reach 1K subscribers soon and motivate for more interesting fanfic like this. And now let's start the fanfic. The rain felt like shurikens as it pelted the palace that housed the fire daimyo, as the guards surrounding the area stood unmoving, stone-faced, only willing to move at the slightest sense of danger. Inside of the building sat the fire daimyo himself at the base of a long table, his council sitting on the left, while the right contained delegates from the hidden village in the leaves known as Konoha. Visible unrest could be seen on their faces. No one said anything, as the daimyo had instructed that the first person to speak would be someone he personally called to attend the meeting. But the silence was deafening. If one listened carefully, they could hear the nervousness from the Konoha's breaths. They were, after all, attending a meeting they had hoped to only attend as a celebration, not as an emergency meeting, but it couldn't be helped. Hiruzen Sarutobi, Konoha's third Hokage, had been killed in battle by his former apprentice and a member of the legendary Sannin, Orochimaru. Unlike when the fourth Hokage, Minato Namikaze, had perished, there was no previous living Hokage who could take back over. So this meeting had to happen. The fifth Hokage of Konoha had to be decided and fast. The more time they wasted, the weaker they looked to the outside world. It didn't help that they were straining their resources having to rebuild the village from Orochimaru's attack. As the silence grew louder and louder, it was finally shattered as a knock was heard on the door, and after one of the servants opened it, the legendary Sannin Jiraiya walked in with a darkened view, making the delegates look at him in confusion. Once the door was shut and the Anbu made sure that they still weren't being spied upon, Jiraiya spoke. "I've arrived as you have asked, Daimyo-sama." Jiraiya stood straight and bowed, a rare sight to many, but his actions nailed home just how serious the current situation was. Everyone had to be attentive and had to make sure their minds were entirely focused, for their decision would impact Konoha for years to come. "Ah, Jiraiya, I'm glad you came. You are critical in the discussion we are about to have." Those words from the daimyo made the delegates a bit tense, but also a bit relaxed as well. While it would be unorthodox, nobody would oppose the daimyo as he chose Jiraiya as the next Hokage, except for maybe one man. Jiraiya nodded as he walked forward as one of the servants led him to the other end of the table, directly facing the daimyo, which made him feel a bit on edge. After sitting down and getting accustomed to his strange sitting position, the daimyo continued. "Now, this meeting has been called because my dear friend Sarutobi has breathed his last breath, and has departed for the next life. Because of this, Konoha is without a Hokage, something that immediately puts our great country at risk." Everyone in the room nodded as the air began to apply pressure to them once again. The relief that Jiraiya had seemingly brought had already vanished, as the gravity of the situation re-emerged from the shadows. "As such, though it has only been a few days, I believe it is wise to go ahead and name the next Hokage of the village." The daimyo readjusted himself as he closed his fan and pointed it at Jiraiya. As everyone's eyes followed it, more faces of relief began to appear as they did. "Jiraiya, I would like you to be the next Hokage of Konoha." The smiles of the delegates were immediately visible, showing that almost all of them approved of the pick. While it was true that Jiraiya was perverted and they were a bit worried what laws he might impose because of that, there was no denying his strength, and he would, at the very least, be a fair ruler. However, not everyone agreed with the pick. "Daimyo-sama, I object to this." The man to speak was Danzo Shumura, a power-hungry man who was known to many as a shady individual. Though his actions had never been proven, many knew of the tales that had followed him throughout the years, and his brutal practices he used on people. Danzo, is there a reason for your objection? It's rather simple. Jiraiya has not been in the village for years now, instead traveling the world to write his fantasy books. While no one in the village can match his strength, I don't feel he would have the commitment for the job and may leave one day out of boredom. The other delegates scowled at Danzo. They knew what his plan was. But they couldn't say anything about it. Everyone was allowed to object, and it was generally unacceptable to refute an objection, especially since it was partially correct about Jiraiya. The daimyo opened his fan back up as he began using it on himself again as he cast a side glance at Danzo. I understand your concerns, Danzo, but Jiraiya has always been a favorite of mine. I believe he would do a fantastic job. Danzo gripped his sleeves but didn't show any emotion on his face. He couldn't argue back against the daimyo, lest he wants several Anbu agents cutting him down. So he stayed quiet and waited for the conversation to develop. After no one else spoke up, the daimyo folded his fan back up and pointed it back at Jiraiya. So Jiraiya, do you accept the position of Hokage of Konoha? There was silence for a moment, as the delegates began to breathe sighs of relief and were already preparing for the trip back when Jiraiya once again bowed. Daimyo-sama. While the proposal greatly honors me, I have to refuse. When he had spoken, all the delegates froze and looked at him in shock. They couldn't believe it. They were confident that Jiraiya would accept the position, especially since some of the older ones who had known him for years knew that was his original plan when he was young before he set off on his adventure. Despite the shock from the delegates, the daimyo quietly opened his fan back up and began fanning his face as he kept his content look. Well, I was expecting that type of answer, unfortunately, so it came as no big surprise. But it does allow me to tell you the true reason you were called here. Jiraiya looked up from his bow before straightening himself as the other delegates all looked at the daimyo, confusion in their eyes. Since I knew you wouldn't accept the position, I called you here for a different reason. The daimyo snapped his fingers as one of his servants brought him a file, as he looked down at it. After discussing with my advisors, and looking over the battle report for myself, I have decided on 2 candidates for the job and wanted to hear your opinion on them. You know both of them after all. One is currently residing in the village, while the other went off on their own journey just like you did. Everyone in the room immediately knew who the daimyo was talking about when he mentioned the one who went off on a journey like Jiraiya. However, they didn't know who he was talking about still residing in the village. However, some of the delegates did begin to look nervously at each other. As Danzo began to smirk, it had to be him, they all thought. He did, after all, control a part of the Anbu, even if it was secret to the public. Sensing what threat could arise should the daimyo choose the one from the village, one of the delegates, the Jonin commander Shikaku Nara, rose up as he spoke. Daimyo-sama, I wish to nominate Kakashi Hatake for the position of Hokage. The other delegates looked at him in surprise, but all of them except for Danzo just nodded and seemed pleased with his sudden surge of inspiration. While Kakashi had his question marks, it was a no contest between him and Danzo. The daimyo continued waving his fan as he raised his free hand to his chin. I've heard good things about him. He's the copy ninja who helped take out the mist swordsman Zabuza. Indeed, his skills are impressive. However, I have reservations about his mental state. As of read, he had an unpleasant childhood, and he still carries some of that hatred and sorrow with him. Until he can let go of the past, I'm afraid I cannot consider his nomination. Shikaku bit his lip in frustration as the grin on Danzo's face reappeared, and once he saw that, Shikaku couldn't contain himself. Then I ask that you reconsider your decision on Danzo. The other delegates didn't flinch, but all of them could read like a book when the words left his mouth. They were all thinking the same thing, but none of them spoke, out of fear that Danzo might retaliate once he assumed office. However, the daimyo just raised an eyebrow as he kept fanning himself. I don't have anything to decide on when it comes to Danzo. You mean, he's not the one from the village you have your eyes on? The daimyo simply swung his head, causing relief to wash over the delegates while Danzo again clenched his hands, but didn't retaliate. He would continue to let the situation play out, and while he may not be chosen, he could easily get close to the fifth and easily become his or her successor when they mysteriously pass away. Then, who is? Before that, Jiraiya. I want to hear what you think about my first choice. The daimyo closed his fan once again as one of the servants laid a picture down on the table that everyone recognized as the daimyo pointed towards it, another member of the legendary Sannin, Tsunade. She is the granddaughter of the first Hokage, so I believe she has the heritage for the job. Her skills as a ninja in both the battlefield and the medical field are unmatched, and though easy to anger, she has a kind heart. Do you believe she should be the fifth, Jiraiya? Jiraiya looked down at the picture as a nostalgic smile came upon his face. How long had it been since he last saw Tsunade, yet alone as young as she was in the picture? Everything the daimyo had said was true, nothing was wrong. But Jiraiya's smile vanished as he crossed his arms and closed his eyes. My only worry is that she wouldn't want the job. I don't know if she would be willing to accept all the responsibility that came with it, especially after all she has been through. I see. Somehow I was expecting that answer as well. The daimyo spoke as the servant picked the picture up off the table as an unnerving silence returned. Well, I wish to give you the other candidate I have thought of, however, I want to reveal something. Everyone in the room gave the daimyo a confused look as he reopened his fan before he began speaking. Konoha is the most important village of our country, as it houses our strongest military and economic impacts. Because of this, I don't wish to have a new leader installed every decade or so, as every time a new one is installed, it creates a time of weakness, especially during an emergency meeting such as this. While I would have preferred Jiraiya or Tsunade, the truth is that with them, we may be having another one of these meetings in just a few years due to their age, something I do not want. The delegates nodded, understanding where the daimyo was coming from. After all, a big reason that Minato was chosen was that it was thought he would rule for decades, yet. So my choice that currently resides in the village is someone young, very young, in fact, younger than Minato was when he was chosen. Everyone raised an eyebrow and looked at each other. Was there someone that young and powerful in the village? If there were, they would still need to train to reach that power. If you're wondering how young, well, they were competing in the Chunin exams just a few days ago. When the daimyo said that, everyone in the room mentally gasped and gave him looks of confusion. Someone that young. While it was true they would rule for decades, could they give someone that young that much power? After all, the Hokage was the absolute ruler of the village and could do whatever they pleased. It wasn't a democracy, it was an absolute dictatorship, and giving someone that much power at a young age. It was so risky that it made some of the ones present visibly nervous. However, Danzo seemed content with the idea, which scared some of the delegates. He seemed content because someone that young would easily be swayed, and with as high of a position he held, Danzo could quickly gain the power he wanted, even if he didn't become Hokage. So to him, he was content with that choice. However, another question arose, just who was he referring to? They wanted to narrow it down to the winners, but since the exams went unfinished, that gave them a lackluster bubble to choose from. If they included everyone, then the obvious ones that jumped out were Sasuke Uchiha for his incredible power, Neji Hyuga for his family ties, and Shikamaru Nara for his intellect. Yet all three posed problems. Sasuke was powerful, but he was fueled by hatred and revenge for his brother, who had massacred their entire clan, so could he be trusted with that much power? Neji had shown incredible chakra control, yet he was brash and often overlooked foes, which lead to his defeat against Naruto Uzumaki. Finally was Shikamaru, who had a great intellect that could be matched by almost no one, yet he was incredibly lazy, and often paid little attention to conversations. Out of all of them, Shikamaru seemed like the best choice, since his dad was the Jonin commander. Also, despite his laziness, he knew what he was doing most of the time, so he would at least be knowledgeable with missions and the such. He was the least risky choice out of them all. So Jiraiya, Would this choice be better than Tsunade? Jiraiya gave a confused look. How should he know? He didn't even know who they were after all. Daimyo-sama, I'm afraid I can't answer that if I don't know who you are referring to. Oh, but since it concerns you, it should be rather easy to figure out. After all, the young one I'm talking about is the only son of Minato Namikaze. As soon as the words left his mouth, both Jiraiya and Shikaku went wide-eyed and stared at the daimyo as sweat came down their face. They were the only ones in the room who knew about Minato's son, so they immediately knew who he was talking about. Naruto Uzumaki, the Jinchuriki of Konoha. Jiraiya tried to speak, yet no words left his mouth. How could they? To be asked on the spot if your godson could become the most powerful man in your village. What could he reasonably say? Also Jiraiya, I'm not choosing him because of his bloodline. I know you have been training him ever since he was young in secret, and that he held back in his Chunin exam. After all, it was thanks to your training that he was able to help save Konoha during the attack. That was true. Ever since Naruto was a baby, Jiraiya had secretly watched out for him, and once he was old enough, he began secretly training him to become a ninja, making him more powerful than anyone other genin. In fact, his power could be compared to a low-ranking Jonin. He was the perfect one to lead the future of Konoha, but Daimyo-sama. Shikaku stood up and slammed his hands on the table as sweat rolled down his face. I know how powerful he is. But you know how the village treats him. If he were to become Hokage suddenly, we would have full-on riots in the streets, or worse. They only treat him like that, because of Sarutobi's decision not to reveal the truth to anyone. I feel that if the truth was revealed, and he continued to prove himself, then everyone would eventually accept him. Of course, him becoming a good leader would speed up the process. One of the delegates, a woman from the retired ninja council named Shinya, raised her hand and spoke. Who exactly is Namikaze-sama's son? I will only reveal that if Jiraiya deems him ready. If not, then I advise you to begin searching for Tsunade. Jiraiya gritted his teeth as he looked at the table he was sitting at. Could he do it? Could he in good faith say Naruto was ready? No, he couldn't. At the same time, was anybody ready? Just a week ago, Sarutobi was alive, and the village was celebrating the Chunin exams. Now they had no leader, and the village was in ruin as many ninjas were still missing or presumed dead. So was anybody ready? The only answer to that was hell no. Nobody was. He knew this, and Jiraiya had to accept this. It wouldn't be a popular decision by a long shot, but Naruto might be the Hokage they need, but not the one they deserve or want. Jiraiya took a deep breath as he stood up from his chair and looked directly at the daimyo as he gave a smile. I fully support his nomination as Hokage. Jiraiya. Shikaku looked at him with worry, but as soon as he saw the resolve in his eyes, he felt a sense. Relief. No. Perhaps it was gratitude. Whatever it was, it made him feel at ease, and after a moment he stood back up as well. I, as being the only other one here to know of Namikaze-sama's son, also fully support his nomination as Hokage of Konoha. The daimyo looked between the two of them before he smiled and shut his fan as he stood up and pointed the fan upwards. Then it's settled. With this, I appoint Naruto Uzumaki as the 5th Hokage of Konoha. As the sun began to rise, shining the village that slept underneath it, a sense of nervousness and calm could be felt throughout the village. 3 days ago, the delegates from the village had been summoned to the capital of the country to decide on the 5th Hokage, but despite the delegates returning the previous night, there was no word of who was chosen. Many villagers had seen that some of the delegates had worried expressions and looks of disbelief, which arose fear in some that a new Hokage couldn't have been agreed upon. However, that wasn't the truth, that was far from the truth. The worries and fear that were expressed on the delegates weren't because a new Hokage wasn't chosen, it was because, for many of them, the person who had been selected was despised by almost everyone due to the lies that had been spread throughout the village over the years. However, for the ones who despised the pick, they had a small glimmer of hope left. Despite being chosen, the Jonin of the village still had to convene and vote to approve or disapprove the pick. Before the delegates had left, 10 Jonin had been picked to vote on the matter, and as soon as the delegation had returned, the 10 Jonin convened in the Hokage's manor as the Jonin commander began the vote. Once all the Jonin had assembled, and the Anbu had secured their location, the meeting began as Shikaku sat down at the end of the table that had been prepared as he took out the nomination letter the Daimyo had given him as he began to speak. I know that before the delegation had departed, many of us assumed that one of the legendary Sannin would have been chosen. I'm here to announce that we were partially correct in that assumption, as Jiraiya-sama was chosen to be the fifth. However, Shikaku looked over the Jonin who all seemed to know what he was about to say as told by their looks of doubts. He refused the position. Moreover, Tsunade-sama wasn't chosen either. Everyone in the room narrowed their eyes and nodded, not letting their surprise slip through as Shikaku continued. The person who was chosen is currently residing in the village, and it's someone we all know very well. The Jonin glanced at each other but still didn't say anything, but thoughts of who it could be did start to enter their minds. Many were already assuming that it was one of the shinobi at the table, which at the very least made the vote a foregone conclusion if that was the case. One of us here knows this person more personally than the rest of us. Kakashi. Everyone's eyes looked to the other end of the table where Kakashi was sitting, who simply raised an eyebrow at the sudden call out. I ask that you vote on this nomination not because of personal feelings, but because of whether you believe in the nominee or not. Understand? Kakashi kept his confused gaze as he leaned onto the table and responded, I hope you're not saying I've been chosen. No. But, someone from Squad 7 has been. When the words left his mouth, the air suddenly became thin as all the Jonin looked at each other in confusion and genuine surprise. Even Kakashi was shocked by the news as he narrowed his gaze. Does this mean that Uchiha Kid has been chosen? The one to speak was the leader of Team 10, Asuma Sarutobi, the son of the recently departed third Hokage. Because while it's true he's powerful, we have to realize that his brother drives him, not a good quality of a leader. Everyone nodded. That was true. Sasuke was driven by revenge for his brother, and giving him the power of the Hokage could mean all of the country's resources would go to killing Itachi and nothing else. Not to mention, but he's currently resting in the hospital after losing his battle to that sand ninja known as Gaara, right? The next Jonin to speak was Choza Akamichi, the father of Choji and a famous Jonin due to his years of service. Indeed, the reports state that after being severely injured, his teammate, Naruto Uzumaki, was the one who finished the battle. Kurenai Yuhi was the next to speak as the doubts and signs of rejection were already appearing across the Jonin's faces before Kakashi finally spoke. Sasuke is strong and has a ton of potential, but he's not mentally ready for a job of that magnitude. It doesn't help that Orochimaru currently has his eyes set on Sasuke, and by naming him Hokage, we're essentially inviting another invasion whenever Orochimaru recovers. Because of that, I can't in good faith vote to approve of Sasuke. Everyone nodded and were all prepared to vote the same way when a voice rang out. Well, it's a good thing that he wasn't the one chosen then. All the Jonin looked at Shikaku after he spoke as more looks of confusion filled the room. What? I thought you said. I said it was someone from your team. But I never said it was Sasuke Uchiha. Kakashi kept his confused look centered on Shikaku until his eye went wide as he started to realize what he meant. If it wasn't Sasuke, then that left only two options. The chances of Sakura being chosen were non-existent thanks to her limited ninja skills and judgmental mindset. That means, you're telling me that the one chosen was. Yes, Minato Namikaze-sama's son. Naruto Uzumaki has been chosen as the fifth Hokage of Konoha. When Shikaku spoke, everyone became stone-faced and unmoving as they stared at him, the words not sinking into their heads. Naruto Uzumaki. The kid that was despised by the public because of his birth. The kid who played pranks on all of the villagers. The kid who many thought had only beaten Neji because of a fluke. That Naruto. After the initial shock and confusion, everyone began to look around before all of their eyes landed on Kakashi, who was still staring at Shikaku. So Kakashi, can you vote with reason and not emotion? Or should we have someone replace you for the vote? Quote. I can vote just fine, but Naruto is stronger than he lets on, and his mental fortitude is stronger than Sasuke's, but the risks that would come if he was installed as Hokage would be huge. Not only would the public most likely revolt in the streets, but the Akatsuki would immediately make us their #1 target. Trust me, I discussed this at length with the other delegates on the way back. Many of them were split, of course. While some argued that the public would come around in time, the others said that we would be thrown into civil war long before that happens. It's something we do have to consider. Does anyone else have anything to question? Yeah, I do. Asuma spoke as he took the cigarette from his mouth and crushed it in between his fingers as he looked at Kakashi. What do you mean by saying Naruto is stronger than he looks? I mean exactly what I say. I always had a feeling that Naruto was holding back, but that was proven true in the Chunin exams. No regular person can have a grueling match with Neji like he did, only to turn around and be able to defend the village from another Jinchuriki like himself successfully. I don't care if Gaara did fight Sasuke beforehand, it's still superhuman either way. But he was always rated near the bottom of his class when it came to being a ninja. Why would he purposely hold back? I have someone who can answer that. Shikaku interrupted their conversation as he lightly tapped on the table before speaking again. I figured that we would all have a lot of questions, so I brought the person who could best answer them that wasn't Naruto himself. Soon after, the door to the room opened as Jiraiya walked in with a stern and severe expression as all of the Jonin eyed him, no one making a sound until the door was closed and the room was scouted over once more. I have brought Jiraiya-sama here, as he has some revelations that might surprise you all. Jiraiya nodded as he walked over and stood beside Shikaku before he began speaking. As I'm fully aware, you all have many questions regarding Naruto, and I'm here to answer them all. But before that, I want to state off the bat that Naruto has my full support for being the next Hokage. After discussing it at length with Shikaku, he also fully supports Naruto. The Jonin all-eyed Shikaku, though he didn't flinch as he allowed for Jiraiya to continue. I was listening in, and after hearing Kakashi and Asuma talk to each other, I want to state that Kakashi is right about Naruto as holding back. The reason for this is because ever since he was a child, I have been raising and training him in secret. All the Jonin tensed up a little but still didn't say anything as he continued. I wasn't always around for him, as I did, of course, travel the world, and it seems that during the times I was absent, he would often play pranks on everyone in the village. While this may seem immature, I want to make it clear that he did this because he wanted attention. The public always either ignored him or cursed his very existence, and when I wasn't around, this was how he was able to cope. A few guilty looks could be seen on some of the Jonin as they knew the reason the public hated Naruto was because of the third's decision to never tell the truth about how Naruto had, in a way, saved the village. Many of the villagers thought he was the reason for the very beast that attacked them. Of course, many directly placed blame on him for the loved ones they lost. The reason Naruto was always near the bottom during school was that I feared that if the villagers believed he was getting stronger and learning, they might amp up their attacks against him, so I told him to always barely pass, to make it seem like he was getting weaker. When he was assigned to Kakashi's team, I told him to act dumb and not show off any skills, just in case of spies. Now I'm not saying he doesn't have a playful personality, by the way, but I am saying he has a serious side that I only ever see. Everyone seemed to nod and understand, but before Jiraiya could continue, Kakashi stood up and looked at him. Then let me ask something. Until he's approved, he is still my student, and I have a right to know. How strong is Naruto? The others looked at Jiraiya impatiently, also wondering the same question as Jiraiya nodded and spoke. Of course, everyone in this room has a right to know. Now if we are comparing him to the other Hokages, he's easily the weakest one. Of course, the flip side is that he is also the youngest one, and has the potential to become the strongest one this village has ever seen. But regarding his current level of training, he can be compared to a fresh new Jonin. That's strong, huh? An air of seriousness swept through the room. Though Naruto would most likely have trouble against everyone in that room, the fact that at just 13 years old, he could already be compared to a Jonin was a testament of how strong he could become. Any other questions? Kakashi didn't say anything else as he began to sat back down, but as he was doing so, Asuma nodded as he stood up and pulled another cigarette out and placed it in his mouth. We've touched on this already, but I want you to answer how you think the village would respond to this. If we approve Naruto, then we're gonna have to explain to the very people that hate him, that he now has control over their everyday lives. If you had asked me this just a month ago, I would have told you that it would suicide for this village. However, I believe people are starting to think differently about Naruto. Whenever I went somewhere and mentioned Naruto, I would get looks of scowls and curses thrown my way. However, just the other day when I visited a few places, I mentioned Naruto at all of them, and while the scowls were present, a lot of people said that they were relieved he was around to save the village, and they might have misjudged them. Now, of course, many still hate and despise him, but already we see people can be persuaded, and should the truth come out about Naruto, then I believe we have nothing to worry about. Asuma nodded as he sat back down, silence filling the room afterward as everyone could hear their hearts speed up, knowing that the vote for the future was approaching. Shikaku looked across everyone and spoke up, "Does anybody have any more questions or statements?" Choza nodded and stood up as he looked directly at Jiraiya. "I wish to ask. Jiraiya-sama, will you stay in the village and guide Naruto if we approve of his appointment?" "Of course. I've raised him like my own son, I wouldn't abandon him, especially now." Choza nodded as he sat back down, seeming content with that answer. One last time Shikaku looked around and asked if anybody had any questions or statements. And when silence followed, he merely nodded as he picked a wood hammer off the floor and hit the table with it. "As commander of the Jonin, I hereby declare that the vote to appoint Naruto Uzumaki as the 5th Hokage of Konoha shall now commence. You will vote with your blood by writing the kanji for yea or nay on the paper provided to you. In the event of a tie, then we shall have the one designated for tiebreakers, which is currently Anko Mitarashi, to cast her vote." Everyone nodded, and after one more tap of the hammer, everyone closed their eyes and bit down on their finger before they began to write on their papers. Despite having no one right beside him, Shikaku also closed his eyes as he voted while Jiraiya walked over to the window and looked outside, not wanting to know the result before everyone else. After everyone had finished, they all kept their eyes closed as one by one, they slid their papers towards Shikaku, who picked them up and placed them in a pile until finally, all 10 had voted. Once he knew that all the papers had been collected, he banged the hammer on the table as everyone opened their eyes, sweat could be seen on everyone's faces. After another bang on the table, Shikaku began talking, "I shall now tally all of the votes." Everyone kept quiet as Shikaku picked up the stack of papers and went through every single one, as the pressure and potential history of the moment could be felt pressing down on their shoulders. Every time Shikaku placed a paper face down after reading over it, made their hearts drop, until finally he read the final one and placed it down, as everyone internally gulped and kept their eyes glued to him. All of the votes have been counted, and of course the Anbu agents have made sure that they were all authentic by watching the voting. Now, by a final vote of 7-3, the appointment of Naruto Uzumaki as the 5th Hokage of Konoha has been approved. Shikaku spoke as he swung the hammer down onto the table as everyone felt a sense of relief but a sense of fear as well due to the unknown. When Jiraiya heard the vote, he didn't turn around, but he did smile and even had a small tear run down his face as he kept looking outside as he muttered to himself, you did it, kid. After making sure everyone had their eyes trained on him, Shikaku continued, the final step is, of course, confirming with the Hokage-elect that they accept the position, but I have a feeling that won't be an issue. Until the clan's heads have been informed, no one is to say anything to Naruto-sama. However, he is now the Hokage in waiting, and his life is the most important in the village. Even if it cost you your own life, you must make sure he is protected. Everyone nodded as the air of relief and fear suddenly vanished, as they all returned to their shinobi forms. Even the unknown three who had voted against Naruto were now ready to guard him with their life. Kakashi, for the time being, continue to treat Naruto-sama as nothing more than one of your students. But the same applies to you, he is the top priority, and even if it costs the life of your other students, you must protect him. Quote. Of course. Kakashi nodded as he felt mixed emotions. He was feeling joy at seeing someone he cared about to achieve their dream, but he couldn't help but think that this might be too dangerous for Naruto. Now, Dragon. An Anbu agent with a dragon-looking mask suddenly appeared beside Shikaku. Your team is now in charge of guarding the Hokage-elect every day and every hour. You must never lose sight of him, but he also must never notice you. Failure to do this will result in death. Understood. After affirming his orders, the agent suddenly vanished as Shikaku let out a sigh as he took the hammer once more. Now, this session of the Jonin has ended. The hammer swung down one last time as the morning sun climbed higher and higher. As the sun got higher and higher, illuminating more and more of the ground below, Naruto slowly woke up from his sleep as the light hit him right in the face. When his eyes fully opened up, he noticed he was still in the hospital room that was currently housing Sasuke, who was still in a coma on his bed while Sakura had fallen asleep right beside him. After adjusting his eyes, Naruto let out a small yawn, yet his nerves were bothering him. He felt off today, like something had happened, yet he couldn't put his finger on it. Not only that, but he felt like he was being watched as well, but no one was around, and he couldn't sense anybody's chakra that wasn't nearby. Despite those concerns, he got up from his chair and walked over and looked at Sasuke as he let out a sigh. A part of him was kicking him for not being able to help Sasuke in time. Sure, he had saved Sasuke's life, but he still didn't make it in time to stop his injuries from being as bad as they were. He let out one more sigh as he walked back over to the window and looked outside as people were starting their day. While a lot of the village had been destroyed, there were still parts left untouched. So while the men spent days helping rebuild everything, the women would go to the relocated markets and help out their neighbors if they could. As Naruto looked down at the scene below, he heard footsteps and soon a knock at the door before it opened up. Knock knock, is anyone awake? Oh, Kakashi-sensei. Naruto gave a smile and a nod as he pointed towards Sakura, who was still passed out, though Kakashi merely glanced at her before looking back at Naruto. I thought you had some important stuff to do today with the others. It wasn't as important as I thought it was. They practically gave me the rest of the day off, so I decided to see how everyone was doing. I see. Well then, while we're waiting for Sasuke to recover, how about we go and help out the villagers? I'm sure a lot of stuff needs to be done. Naruto stretched and began to head out when Kakashi stepped in front of him. I think it would be better if we did something else instead. Huh, how come? Well, even though Orochimaru was severely injured by the third, it's possible he has another plan in place. Because of that, the other Jonin have decided that for the time being, it's better for all of the ninjas to be ready at all times. Meaning to lay low and wait. Ah, really? Is that why you were sent here then? Because of that decision? Yeah, something like that. The two of them heard a noise and looked over and saw Sakura stretch as she woke up from her sleep. Her eyes were still, but when she saw Kakashi, she gave a smile to him. Kakashi-sensei, I'm surprised you're here this morning. What? I can't come and check on my students. Sakura gave a small laugh as Kakashi quickly turned his attention back to Naruto but immediately was interrupted by Sakura once again. Oh, since you're here, Kakashi-sensei. I bet you know. Know what? Well, the delegates sent to the capital returned last night, right? I heard about it when I went out to buy some drinks last night to keep here. They were going to decide on who the 5th Hokage would be, right? Kakashi narrowed his eye but only moved his gaze to make it seem like he was looking outside. Yes, well, the Jonin Council was going to vote this morning. However, I'm quite close to the one they chose apparently, so I wasn't allowed to vote. Quite close. Could it be Guy-sensei then? Kakashi shrugged as he kept his unknowing look. Who knows, might be. All I know is that they're Jonin level when it comes to being a ninja, so they're qualified at least. Oh, I see. Well, maybe it was you, Kakashi-sensei. That's why they didn't allow you to vote. I doubt that, Sakura. I mean, if it were Kakashi-sensei, they would have told him because no one would vote against him. Shut up, Naruto. I wasn't talking to you. Sakura grabbed her can from the night before and threw it right at Naruto. Only for Kakashi to quickly jump in front of him and catch it, surprising both of them. Kakashi-sensei. It's a hospital. If a drink were to hit something and get on the medicine or equipment, why I think Sasuke wouldn't be too thrilled about that. Oh, right. Sorry. Kakashi nodded as he crushed the can as he looked back at Naruto. And Naruto, please don't aggravate her. Yeah. Sorry, Kakashi-sensei. Kakashi sighed as he threw the can in the trash and leaned against the wall, so both of his students were in sight. Anyway, I heard from the doctors that Sasuke should be waking up sometime between tonight and tomorrow, barring any unforeseen events, so we have that at least. Oh, thank goodness. I'm so glad to hear that. Sakura put her hands over her chest as she looked at Sasuke as Naruto also gave a small, sad smile. He was happy his friend was alright. The sadness came from the look Sakura gave Sasuke, making him continue to accept Sakura's true feelings slowly. Despite the sudden bit of sadness, Naruto shook his head as he pumped his fists as he looked at Kakashi. Well, that's good to hear. I've needed a sparring partner for a new jutsu I learned, and Sasuke is the perfect partner. New jutsu. Kakashi raised an eyebrow as Naruto nodded. What is it? Hehe, you'll see when I use it against Sasuke. Naruto gave a big smile and a thumbs up, making Kakashi even more curious at what he was talking about. Oh yeah, once we find out who the new Hokage is, I wonder if he would allow me to have a sparring match with him. He would be a fantastic training partner. If you can convince the Anbu Black Ops, then he might agree to it. Kakashi used his casual tone as always, though he did start to wonder how much the Anbu would let Naruto train once he assumed office, as all past Hokages didn't need the level of training Naruto did. It's no problem. I tricked those guys so much when the old man was in office that I'm sure it will be just as easy. Kakashi had to give a small laugh at that, if only because those guys were now in charge of guarding Naruto's life. Although, I might know who the 5th Hokage is, Kakashi-sensei. Really? Stupid. There's no way you can know just from what he told us. Sakura yelled over at Naruto as she went to grab another drink, only to stop when she saw Kakashi glaring at her. Oh yes, I can. It's quite obvious if you think about it. This person is not only close to Kakashi-sensei, but has to be strong both physically and mentally. Out of everyone Kakashi-sensei knows, the most obvious choice is Shikaku-sensei. Shikamaru's dad. Yep. I mean, think about it. He's incredibly smart, and a master strategist. Plus he has that shadow possession jutsu. He never has to worry about being attacked because as soon as the attacker gets in range, he can take control of them. Also, he and Kakashi-sensei play mahjong with each other, so I can see why they wouldn't let you vote Kakashi-sensei. While you have good points, Naruto, I wonder if he would even accept the position. He doesn't seem like someone who would want the job, to be honest. Come on, sensei. Who wouldn't want to be Hokage? So if they asked you right now if you would accept the position or not. Haha. Is that even a question? Of course I would accept it. It's my dream to become Hokage after all. Believe it. Naruto gave another thumbs up as Kakashi nodded, another sense of relief washing over him. Oh please, Naruto has a better chance of becoming a school teacher than Hokage, so he never has to worry about being asked that question. What? Hey. Kakashi smirked as he watched his two students begin to argue back and forth, the irony not lost on him. The arguing though was interrupted when a knock came at the door before it opened. Figured I would find you here, Kakashi. Oh, Asuma. Finished with the voting. Asuma gave a confused expression before he saw Naruto and saw what Kakashi was going for. Ah yeah, we just finished. Asuma took a step forward, but before he could even get close to Kakashi, Naruto had jumped in front of him. I'm right, aren't I? Shikaku-sensei is the 5th Hokage, right? Shikaku. Asuma looked at Kakashi, who merely shrugged, causing Asuma to sigh. Ah no, it's not him. I'm afraid I can't say who exactly it is until they're sworn in, but I will say that the council did approve them. Ha. Told you that you wouldn't know who it was, Naruto. Ah geez, thanks Sakura. Naruto gave a low deadpanned reaction before he looked back at Asuma, who seemed to be strangely staring at him, though Naruto dismissed as it being early morning drowsiness. Well, can you give me a hint at least? Hey, let's just say that you'll find out soon enough. Asuma smirked at Naruto and went to ruffle his hair before his better judgment took over as he looked back at Kakashi. Although Kakashi, I have something to talk to you about, can you meet me in the hall? Yeah. Kakashi walked past Naruto and seemed to glare at Sakura as he spoke. Do be nice to each other while I'm gone. I'd rather not have the entire hospital chewing me out for your two behaviors. The two of them sheepishly nodded as Kakashi and Asuma left the room together. I wonder what's that about. Kakashi-sensei seemed upset when he left. I would say it's something about the new Hokage. I hope they're as half as good as the old man. Naruto had a sad look in his eye as he spoke, but he managed to shake it away. Oh here. Sakura gave a can to Naruto, who gave her a confused look. You may be an idiot, but I know how close you and the third were. So I'd rather not have you cry on me. Naruto looked at the can before giving a small smile as he took it. Thanks Sakura. Once Kakashi and Asuma were outside, Kakashi immediately noticed how thick the air was, as if a boulder had suddenly fallen on his shoulders. Genjutsu. Yeah, the Anbu have this entire hospital under Genjutsu right now. It'll stay that way as long as Naruto-sama is here. The room he's in is also under a different Genjutsu, as nobody can hear or see anything in the room. They've also set traps everywhere, ready to go off on anybody they deem a threat. Also, a few Jonin have disguised themselves as patients and are patrolling the hospital. As soon as Asuma said that, a patient walked by with his eyes kept on Naruto's room as he just gave a simple head nod to Asuma and Kakashi as he walked on by. I see. I never noticed how tight security was with the Hokage around. My father always ordered a low security presence whenever he went somewhere, so not to scare anybody. But with how everything is right now, they're watching over Naruto-sama like a hawk. I see. Naruto-sama, huh? Yeah, it's a bit weird to say. Unless it was official business, I was never formal with my dad, so this will take some getting used to. I think it's more along the lines that I could never imagine in a million years that Naruto would become Hokage at such a young age. I always thought he had the potential, but I thought it would be 10 to 20 years from now. Hey, well, if everything goes well, then he'll still be here in that amount of time. I hope so. But anyway, what did you need to tell me? Asuma looked around before he began as an extra air of caution. Well, I have mixed news. I just got back from the Hyuga Manor, and the news about Naruto-sama was met with a small but positive reaction. Many of the members seemed unimpressed with the decision, but Hiyashi said that he would respect the decision and pledged the clan's full support to help and guide Naruto-sama. Well, that went better than I was expecting. Although it doesn't sound like they were overly happy with the news. That's an understatement, but they at least said they would support him. On the bad side of things though, it seems that for whatever reason, Danzo is quite pleased with the news that Naruto was approved. Danzo. Why would he be happy with that? It's no secret that he despises Naruto. It makes no sense for him to be pleased with our decision. Trust me, everybody is fully aware of that, so a few Jonin are keeping tabs on him. It doesn't help that he runs a section of the Anbu that is somehow even more secretive. As soon as Naruto-sama is sworn in, I advise you to immediately tell him about Danzo, Kakashi. Right. One more thing, Kakashi. I've not talked with the others yet, but I know that all of the clans should know by this evening, and because of that, we're going to mark all the ones who don't intend to support Naruto-sama and immediately advise him to install a puppet leader in all of them. Kakashi didn't like the sound of that idea, as that could immediately lead directly to civil war, but, I guess we have no choice. For now, the time to negotiate is in the future, not the present. Yeah. The door suddenly opened as Kakashi and Asuma both immediately looked towards it. Naruto came out holding his wallet. When you guys said the hall, I didn't know you meant right outside of the door. Kakashi placed his hands in his pockets as he walked close to Naruto. Well, it's still in the hall, isn't it? Anyway, where are you going? I'm pretty hungry, so I'm going to go buy some ramen. I invited Sakura, but she said she's going to be with Sasuke until he wakes up, so I guess I'll be going alone. Naruto began to walk on, only to stop when Kakashi laid a hand on his shoulder. I'm pretty hungry myself, mind if I join you? Really? Sure. I haven't eaten anything today. What about you, Asuma? Yeah, ramen sounds great right about now. Where exactly are you going to go eat at? Where else can you find great ramen, except for Ichiraku ramen itself? Ichiraku ramen, Asuma cast a sideways glance over to a patient walking by who nodded as they sped up their walk before vanishing around the corner. Yeah, this is sweet. With 3 people, I may be able to get a bowl free. Kakashi and Asuma Goth gave a small laugh as Naruto walked in front of them and sped walk his way out of the hospital, as the two of them kept close to him at all times. As the trio walked throughout the town, Naruto noticed something was off. He couldn't place his finger on it, but something wasn't quite right. Maybe it was because ever since he entered the hallway, he felt heavy for some reason. Perhaps it was because it seemed like there were a lot more people in the crowd than usual in the morning. Or maybe it was because Kakashi and Asuma seemed more than happy to eat with him. Whatever it was, it felt off, but unless it was something dangerous, Naruto chose to keep an eye on it, but not worry about it yet. Kakashi and Asuma, on the other hand, kept the surrounding area entirely in view as they walked, looking over every person who walked by and every window they passed by. Along the way, they saw that the patients from the hospital were now conveniently passers-by on the streets, while the general market that would be set up already wasn't for some reason. As they kept walking closer and closer, the crowd thinned out more and more until only the passers-bys mentioned earlier were seen, as they seemed to be enjoying the view. At least that's what it looked like to Naruto. When they finally arrived at Ichiraku, Kakashi and Asuma immediately noticed 3 Jonin standing on adjacent buildings observing the area, and when Naruto went under the flaps and into the stand, the passerbys suddenly stopped and began taking positions around the store. When Naruto entered, he smelt the most fantastic smell ever as he gave a big smile as he sat down as Tsuki looked down at him and bellowed a laugh. You're here early this morning, Naruto. Couldn't wait, could ya? Haha. You know me, old man. I'm always ready for your ramen. Tsuki gave another laugh as he began preparing Naruto's regular bowl as Naruto got ready to eat. Well, today's your lucky day, Naruto. To celebrate the birthday of my late grandfather, the first customer gets all ramen free. So Naruto, everything is on the house for you. As soon as Naruto heard those words, his mouth went agape as images of heaven filled his mind. Old man. Are you serious? Hee, I never lie. Naruto's eyes sparkled as he quickly got ready for his first bowl of possibly hundreds. As Tsuki was preparing the bowl, Kakashi and Asuma both walked in as Tsuki gave a wave to them. Nice to see you two today, repair's been going well. Yeah, everything is on schedule. Kakashi gave a casual reply as Asuma sat down beside Naruto as Tsuki walked over and gave Naruto his first bowl, who immediately began eating like crazy. By the way, mind if we have a quick chat? Sure. Fine with me. I'll get your order when I come back, Asuma. Ah, it's fine. Take your time. Tsuki nodded as Kakashi went around the counter and departed to the back with him until they were out of hearing range. If you've come to learn my recipe, sorry to say that it's a family trade, Kakashi. Quote. When did you find out about Naruto? Hee. I learned it when Guy suddenly busted in and told me to shut down for the day. When I questioned why, he was permitted to tell me since I'm a retired Jonin. Truth be told, I thought he was joking at first, but as soon as I noticed the increased security presence and a sudden genjutsu, his claims suddenly became feasible. Quote. Your daughter doesn't know, does she? Nah, I sent her home and told her that due to some construction we couldn't open up shop for the day. Don't know if she believed me or not, but she finally left. I see. Well, you didn't have to make it free, I would have paid. Hey, it's fine. After everything that kid's been through, I'm glad to see that he's finally going to be viewed as something more than a monster. It won't be an easy transition, but I'm sure he'll be just fine. Besides, he can view this as a congratulations present once he's finally in office. Well, I hope you're prepared to match his appetite, especially with making it free. Hee, trust me, I don't plan on opening for the day, so I'm set. Tsuki gave another laugh as he patted Kakashi on the back. I will say this though, the kid is welcome here anytime he wants, and I'll make sure he's a top priority every time. Hey, I swear you're going to regret that. They both shared a small laugh as Tsuki walked past Kakashi and back to the front. Well, I'm sure he's already done. Be a bad look if I made the Hokage wait for his food, Hey, yeah. Tsuki nodded as he walked back to the front as Kakashi stood there for another moment. I hope you're right. I hope they do view him as more than a monster. About an hour had passed, and during that time Kakashi and Asuma had only eaten one bowl, and even then it was just a little bit before they slipped it to Naruto, who was already on his 15th, as Tsuki kept his smile while he prepared several more bowls. As time went on, Kakashi was starting to worry about Naruto's stomach as he kept eating. However, that was interrupted when the flaps opened, and the Jonin Aoba Yamashiro walked in as he looked at Kakashi. Kakashi, I need to talk to you. Kakashi looked back before he nodded as he got up from his seat. I'll be back in a moment. Asuma just nodded while Naruto raised one hand to wave, though he didn't look up from his bowl as Kakashi walked outside as he saw the security detail was still in place. We just got word back from the elders. The elders? What? Did they say anything worth being worried about? Not necessarily, although when I told them about Naruto-sama, they didn't look particularly happy, but they pledged to support him. However, they requested for you to meet with them, and after I informed them you were busy with the Hokage-elect, they requested to meet with Jiraiya-sama personally. What for? When I asked them, they said they had some important questions that needed to be asked. It's nothing to worry about, I would think, but it can be something to worry about though. No matter what they ask, he's already been approved, and they can't change that. If they have any questions, they can ask the Hokage himself when he's inaugurated. Yes, I agree. That's why I've chosen not to inform Jiraiya-sama of their request, as I feel like it would be inappropriate. But on the subject on the inauguration, those plans have been decided on, the private one anyway. I see. Once all the clansmen have been informed, which is expected to be sometime tonight, then we will call Naruto-sama to the Hokage manor and inform him of his appointment, which if everything goes well will be tomorrow morning. If he accepts, then he will immediately assume the role of Hokage, though the public won't be informed until the public inauguration, which is still being planned. Tomorrow morning, huh? It won't be easy keeping it a secret, especially to Sakura and Sasuke. They'll notice if he suddenly isn't around them anymore, not to mention the others who are friends with him. That's been accounted for, and we are preparing a way to make it seem like Naruto-sama is still going about his everyday life. Of course, wherever he goes will have to be heavily guarded, and the like. For the time being, you have been appointed as Naruto-sama's personal bodyguard Kakashi. While the others will switch out their shifts, you are to remain by his side every minute until his inauguration tomorrow morning. I figured. Any other information? Just one last thing. Sunagakure has sent diplomats over and has agreed to surrender for their involvement in the Chunin exams attack fully. They'll be willing to assist us in rebuilding in any way possible and have even offered to release all Konoha prisoners they have taken over the years. The best thing to do would be to guard them until Naruto takes over and then have him agree to the surrender as his first act as Hokage. It would be a smart thing to do after all, as it would immediately make Naruto look like a powerful leader by having a village surrender as soon as he took over, even if it wasn't directly because of him. Shikaku has already issued that exact order. Currently they are being guarded by one of the Anbu teams at a local inn. Alright, I'll get the full details from Shikaku later. Aoba nodded and was about to say something else when the flaps opened, causing both of them to turn towards it as Naruto and Asuma walked out immediately. Finally done. Ah yeah, those 23 bowls hit the spot. Kakashi chuckled as he gave a nod to Aoba, who returned it before he vanished, leaving the original 3 together. But really, Kakashi-sensei, both times today that I left somewhere, you were right outside. Usually people go farther away when they're talking. Well, I know you, Naruto, and whenever you're around Sakura or food, you couldn't care about anything else. Naruto got a small blush from embarrassment as Kakashi gave another small laugh. But anyway, where are you heading next? Oh, I was thinking about meeting up with Kiba for some training. Kakashi and Asuma both gave a glare before they looked at each other and nodded. While that sounds good and all, Naruto, I think it would be better if we headed back to the hospital for now. How come? Well, I heard the Inuzuka clan is currently helping out with the construction effort, so I doubt any of them have time for training right now. Oh really? That's strange. Kiba even told me that he would be free to train this week. Well, I don't want to hang out in the hospital all day. Kakashi started to think about what he could do when an idea suddenly hit him. Say, Naruto, how about me and you train together? Really, Kakashi-sensei? Naruto's eyes sparkled as Kakashi gave a nod, as Asuma let out a small sigh of relief due to his quick thinking. Yep, and I'll tell you what, I'll even teach you a new jutsu. Really? Naruto got even more excited as he was practically bouncing up and down, about to fall right out of his shoes as Kakashi gave another nod. Yeah, but only on one condition. Naruto stopped his bouncing as he gave Kakashi a confused look. Only if you can finally pass this test. Kakashi reached inside his vest and pulled out, what? The bells again. Sure enough, Kakashi pulled out the 2 bells from his vest that he used when Team 7 trained for the first time together. If you can snag both bells before sundown, then I'll teach you something new, alright? Naruto really didn't want to go through the trouble that was the bells again, but the thought of learning a new jutsu was too much to deny. Alright, I'll do it. And I won't hold back, Kakashi-sensei. Hey, good to hear. Naruto pumped his fists together while Asuma laid a hand on Kakashi's shoulder. Well, while you do that, I have a few things to take care of. I'll see you in the morning, Kakashi. Alright then, take care. Asuma nodded before he vanished in a puff of smoke, leaving Kakashi and Naruto alone in front of the ramen stand. Well then, Shall we head to the usual training ground? Hehe. Yeah, I'm pumped. Let's go, sensei. As time marched on and the only noise present was the slow breathing from the one on the bed, Sakura sat quietly as she looked down at her kunai, thoughts racing through her head about what she could have maybe done differently to where Sasuke wouldn't be in the position he was in. Initially, she blamed Naruto for not being able to help and support Sasuke fast enough, but as her anger subsided and reason began to sit in, she realized that it wasn't just one person's fault, it was no one's fault really. The only one to blame was Orochimaru and his allies. Nobody from the village was at fault for what transpired, especially since one of them risked their lives to protect everyone. As she sat still and continued to ponder, a knock was heard on the door, and soon it opened as someone walked in. Shikamaru. The one who had walked in was Shikamaru Nara, son of Shikaku Nara, and Konoha's resident lazy student. Shikamaru raised an eyebrow as he looked over the room before he looked at Sakura. Is Naruto not here? Oh no, why? What a drag. Well, Kiba, Choji, and Shino wanted to train, and we figured Naruto would join us. Training? That doesn't sound like you, Shikamaru. It wasn't my idea, it was Kiba's. But with how everything is, I figured it's better than moving wood planks or concrete. Shikamaru sighed as he placed his hands in his pockets. Well, you know where he is. Oh yeah, he said he was going to Ichiraku Ramen. I guess Kakashi-sensei went with him because of not seeing him since then. Shikamaru raised an eyebrow as he turned and leaned against the wall. Well, he's going to be disappointed. How come? Because the four of us were going there when all of a sudden one of the Jonin appeared and told us that the entire area had been closed off because of some of the construction they had to do. That was a pain, especially since we had been walking for so long. Closed off. But I walked past there last night and had no problems. Yeah, I find it weird myself, but I'm guessing something must have happened all of a sudden. Sakura nodded as silence overtook the two of them. Feeling a bit awkward by the sudden silence, Sakura began to wonder if Shikamaru would know. Hey Shikamaru, I was wondering something. What's up? Do you know who the 5th Hokage is? Why would I know that? Well, your dad is on the council that votes, right? I heard from Kakashi-sensei that they were going to vote sometime this morning, and Asuma-sensei later confirmed that whoever it was approved. Yeah, Dad told me that they voted earlier. I have no idea who it is though, but I'm guessing it's one of the top Jonin. Yeah, I thought that as well. They actually asked Kakashi-sensei not to vote because he was too close to whoever they were voting on, which makes me think it might be Guy-sensei. I don't think he would accept it, to be honest, and if he did, I don't think we would hear the end of it from Lee. True. I doubt Guy-sensei would keep it hidden from Lee either. Oh, maybe that's why they closed down that street for the day. Because whoever is the next Hokage was somewhere on it. Well, it did seem a bit off I guess, so that's possible. But there's not anything on that street for someone who is about to become Hokage to go to. Maybe they went to Ichiraku. I doubt someone as powerful as the Hokage would want to eat ramen for breakfast. Sakura shrugged as if to say maybe, maybe not. Well anyway, if you see Naruto, go ahead and tell him to meet us at my house. Alright, will do. Shikamaru nodded as he left the room, leaving Sakura by herself as she looked back down at her kunai. The 5th Hokage, I hope whoever it is. I hope they can make the ones who did this pay. As the sun got closer and closer to sundown, Naruto was heavily breathing as his back laid against one of the tree stumps in the training field. Though he had managed to actually grab one of the bells halfway through, his energy had mostly left him after an entire day of running around trying to catch Kakashi, and he was beat. As Naruto stood there, Kakashi appeared in front of him, the bell still in his hand. Well, it's sundown. I'll give you credit, Naruto, you managed to get one today. Not both of them though, so the new jutsu will have to wait. Damn it. But I got closer, Kakashi-sensei. I'll get it one of these days. Both bells. Naruto was breathing heavily as his body ached, though it was a good ache, an ache that signified that he had accomplished something today. Kakashi nodded as he placed the bell in his vest pocket. Indeed, you are getting better, though you still have much work to do. Perhaps when you get some free time again, we can practice once again. Then. How about tomorrow? Naruto gave a competitive smile to Kakashi, who kept his eye trained on Naruto. Well, tomorrow is going to be a busy day, a lot of things are planned. But maybe if we get some free time, we can do some exercises. Awesome. Despite wanting to collapse right there, Naruto pushed himself off the stump and slowly walked over to Kakashi. Remember when I get the second bell you promised a new Jutsu. Naruto suddenly started to fall backward, only for Kakashi to quickly catch him and slowly lower him to the ground as Naruto was passed out asleep. Kakashi kept his eyes trained on him until he heard footsteps behind him. Didn't know you had that much energy, Kakashi. Well, when you're dealing with kids, you kinda have to. Kakashi looked over as Asuma had re-emerged from the bushes. He's pretty good for his age. I saw you struggle at several points. Yeah, if I didn't try, then he would have easily gotten both bells. It's incredible how good he can be when he's not holding back. Though he has a long way to go, I believe with a few years of training, he'll be the best in the village. Considering he's now Hokage, I pray so. Speaking of which, all of the clan's heads now know. Any problems? Not that I heard. Though some like the Hyuga clan only promised to respect the decision and give support when necessary, others such as the Inuzuka clan fully recognized the decision and promised to support the new Hokage every minute of every day. Well, that went better than I was expecting, though it will be good to keep an eye on all of them. Agreed. But since they all know, I guess that means, Asuma nodded as he looked down at Naruto. Yeah, tomorrow morning, Naruto Uzumaki will officially assume the duty of Hokage. A sharp wind blew throughout the training field as the two shinobi kept their looks on Naruto. Well then, tomorrow officially begins a new chapter in history. I pray that Naruto cares about his dream as much as he says he does. Because as of tomorrow morning, our lives are his to command. Guest responses. CW. Glad to hear. Guest. May everyone have mercy, it's going to be an up and down ride. The night rolled on throughout the village. Many of its inhabitants were fast asleep, while the night owls were either doing some sort of job or roaming the streets about to pass out from drinking. However, the few who weren't shinobi noticed increased movement around the Hokage tower, as every minute Jonin were entering and leaving the place. Even some Chunin were seen roaming around the tower, and for any drunks who got close, they were immediately escorted home by someone. While many citizens knew that something was taking place, they didn't know what exactly. Some thought a new Hokage had been decided on and they were preparing for him. Others felt that perhaps the council hadn't voted yet and were setting up to do so. Not like they would ever know the answer, the ordinary citizen knew nothing of the governmental affairs, and that was for the best, especially since many citizens might be upset if they knew exactly who was about to assume the office of Hokage. As the night continued, one of the legendary Sannin made his way down the street, his large scroll on his back as a sense of pride resonated throughout his body. As he got closer to the tower, many of the shinobi quickly eyed him before returning to their duty, the members of the Hyuga clan who had been swiftly summoned confirming his chakra to make sure he was the real deal. As he walked up to the door, the one standing guard at it gave a smile to the Sannin as he got closer. Jiraiya-sama, it's nice to see you again. Aruka, it's been a while. Still teaching at the academy. It's where my passion lies, so of course haha. I'm guessing you're here to attend the private ceremony for the 5th. Yeah, I am. Have you been told yet who it is? Aruka sighed as he shook his head. No, only the Jonin know. The Chunin have been called here for extra security, but we've not been told anything regarding the event. We don't even know who the 5th is. All we've been told is that he's expected to arrive sometime early in the morning and that the entire area has been encased in some sort of genjutsu to hide who they are. I see, I see. Well, you may be allowed to watch the ceremony. I'm sure you'll be surprised at who it is. Huh, you know who it is, Jiraiya-sama. Yeah, I attended the voting. They requested me there to answer some questions about the Hokage elect since he still doesn't know he's been chosen. I see. While it's true that whoever it is won't be told until right beforehand, I am curious as to why they asked you to attend. The only person I can think of them needing you to answer questions would be Tsunade-sama, another one of the legendary Sannin, but everyone keeps referring to the Hokage elect as a he, so. Yeah, it's not her. Don't think being Hokage would suit her, to be honest. She's a little too brash if you ask me. I see. They didn't break protocol and had you answer questions about yourself, did they? Jiraiya gave another laugh as he shook his head. No, I don't think I could ever do this job. Not only is there way too much paperwork involved, but I wouldn't have enough time to do my research. Jiraiya got a goofy grin on his face as Aruka raised an eyebrow. What was he talking about? I see. Well, I'm sorry to say that I don't know who you might be close enough to answer questions about them. Hey, it's fine, I've been training him in secret for years now. Somehow the Daimyo found out though, and that became one of the reasons he was chosen. Well, if they're your personal apprentice Jiraiya-sama, then I think they're perfect for the job. Jiraiya got a smirk on his face as he nodded as he began to walk past Aruka and into the building. Well, I think I'll go take my seat before the clan's heads arrive. Be sure to congratulate the Hokage elect when you see him. Huh, but I don't know who it is. Hee. Trust me, when you see him, you'll immediately know. Aruka gave another confused look as Jiraiya walked inside of the tower as shinobi continued to go here and fro. The night continued peacefully, and that included one Naruto Uzumaki, who quietly slept on his bed in his apartment, the exhaustion from yesterday entirely taking over his body. Hours went by, and soon the night slowly started turning light as the sun began to creep up in the distance, its rays shining directly into Naruto's face, causing him to scrunch as he tossed and turned until his eyes slowly started to open up. As he awoke from his slumber, he pushed himself up and stretched as he yawned as he looked down at his clothes. Oh yeah, I passed out when I was training with Kakashi-sensei yesterday. Naruto gave another yawn and was about to fall back to sleep when a voice interrupted him. Sleep well. Hearing the voice, Naruto suddenly went wide-eyed as he pushed himself up and looked around until he saw Kakashi leaning against his wall, reading his book that he kept with him at all times. Kakashi-sensei. What are you doing here this early? Well, I brought you home last night, so I decided to stay with you until you woke up. Naruto gave him a confused look as he scratched the back of his head. That's kinda weird, sensei. Why did you? Naruto was cut off as out of the corner of his eye, he saw both Asuma and Kurenai leaning against the wall. Huh? Asuma and Kurenai-sensei. Why are you two here as well? Neither of them spoke as they stayed in place, and soon Naruto saw that further down the wall were Choza and several more Jonin. Why are all you guys here? Did something happen? Nobody said anything, though Kakashi did close his book and stuff his hands into his pockets as he turned towards the door, as standing in front of it was Shikaku-sensei. After Naruto noticed him, Shikaku gave a nod as he walked forward, as all of the Jonin did as well as they surrounded Naruto's bed, making him sweat. Naruto Uzumaki. Shikaku spoke as Naruto leaned against the wall, not knowing what was going on. Why yeah. You know who all of us all, of course, but as per tradition, I must introduce ourselves as the Jonin Council. They all did an introductory bow, causing Naruto to raise an eye as he kept looking over all of them, trying to see if this might be a trap or prank by someone. Alright, why are you all here? I didn't do anything, did I? No. Well, you've done nothing to warrant being worried if that's what you're wondering about. Shikaku gave a head nod to Kakashi, who returned it as he stepped up towards Naruto. Naruto, yesterday, did anything feel off to you? Yesterday. Well, now that you mention it, Naruto crossed his arms as he tried to remember, recalling that something did feel off early on. Yeah, it felt like something was heavy on my shoulders, and it also felt like I was being watched. Right, and that was because you were being watched. The Anbu Black Ops were following you all day yesterday and all night, and are still watching over you. The heavy thing you felt was a genjutsu they had deployed to protect you. Protect me. Is someone after my life? Someone sent by Orochimaru perhaps? Kakashi shrugged as he looked outside. It's possible that there is someone out there planning to take your life, but we have nothing that can confirm that. However, we can't deny that either, so you're going to be protected every minute of every day from now on. How come? Kakashi looked over at Shikaku, who nodded as he pulled out a scroll and opened it. Naruto, you remember how the 5th Hokage has yet to be decided on, correct? Yeah, why? Well, that's the reason you're being guarded the way you are right now. Naruto raised an eyebrow as he gave a questioning look. What do you mean? Do I know who it is, and you need me to answer some questions or whatever? Is that why I'm being protected? Shikaku shook his head as he looked down at the scroll. 4 days ago, the Fire Daimyo appointed the 5th Hokage of Konoha, and yesterday morning, the Jonin Council got together to vote on the nomination. And by a vote of 7 to 3, Shikaku closed the scroll as he kept his eyes on Naruto, who started to go wide-eyed. The council has approved you, Naruto Uzumaki, as the 5th Hokage of Konoha. As soon as the words left his mouth, Naruto's eyes went wide as his voice caught in his throat. He tried to speak but couldn't. Every word he decided to form wouldn't come out. He just kept staring at Shikaku, who stared right back. Naruto looked over at Kakashi as some words finally started to form. Kakashi-sensei. This is a joke. Alright. Kakashi didn't say anything for a moment as he closed his eye and shook his head. No. He's telling the truth, Naruto. Naruto just stared at Kakashi as a mix of emotions began to swirl inside of his stomach, making him almost sick as he just looked across all the faces of everyone who was present. They were all serious, stone-faced really, showing no emotion as they all stared at Naruto. Naruto kept looking across all of their faces until his gaze met Shikaku's again, who spoke once more. Of course, should you refuse? Then this meeting will never be spoken of again, and a hunt for a new Hokage shall continue. The choice is yours, Naruto Uzumaki. Naruto just took the words in as all kinds of thoughts entered his mind. Ever since he was a kid, his dream was always to become Hokage. Nothing ever came before that. Every day of his training, Jiraiya told him that he had to get stronger to become Hokage, he had to keep pushing and never give up. And here it was. The offer. The council voted, and they wanted him as their leader, no. As the leader of the village. Everyone would depend on him. Everyone would need him, everyone might acknowledge him. Naruto cast a downwards shadow as a tear ran down his cheek as he quickly wiped it off, everyone patiently waiting for his answer, until Naruto finally looked Shikaku in the eyes as determination swirled throughout his body. Shikaku-sensei. I'll do it. I'll become Hokage. As soon as the words left his mouth, Shikaku nodded as everyone placed their fists on their chests. Very well then. We pledge to serve you. Everyone got onto their knee and in unison said, Hokage-sama. Naruto was taken aback from the scene, yet a sense of pride welled up in him as he couldn't help but smile as another tear ran down his face, causing him to wipe it away. Naruto smiled as he looked across everyone, but as everyone stayed kneeled he got a bit embarrassed as he spoke. You guys can stand back up. Everyone immediately did so as smiles were on each of their faces, slightly amused by Naruto's embarrassment. However, that amusement vanished as Shikaku spoke back up. Now then. We have a lot of things to explain to you, Hokage-sama. I'll explain most of them on the way though. On the way to where? To your private inauguration, of course, you still have to follow tradition after all. Okay, are we walking? Everyone gave a small laugh as Naruto jumped off his bed and followed Shikaku out with everyone following closely behind. However, as soon as he was on the railing, he looked down and saw a chariot. I didn't even know we had those here. They're not commonly used due to the materials needed to make one, but we always kept one around for use by the Hokage. Sarutobi-sama never wished to use it as he enjoyed walking, so it's not common knowledge that we have one. I see. Wait, does that mean? Shikaku nodded as he gave a smile back to Naruto. It's pretty slow compared to how you usually travel, I hope you don't mind. No, it's fine, just different is all. Shikaku nodded as they all walked down the steps as Naruto noticed the heavy feeling again, most likely because of some genjutsu, while also noticing several Jonin were around his apartment. Kakashi and I will ride with you while the others will walk beside it. Unless you have different plans. No, that's fine. Shikaku once again nodded as he opened the door to the chariot and allowed Naruto to get inside first before him and Kakashi followed suit. Once the door was shut, the driver allowed the other Jonin to get in place before he motioned for the horses draped with Konoha's symbol to begin their trot to the tower. Once Naruto settled into the chariot, the highly comfortable seat certainly helped with that. Shikaku, who had sat in front of Naruto along with Kakashi, began speaking. Hokage-sama, currently we are traveling to Hokage Tower for your private inauguration ceremony, which will only be attended by all of the village's Jonin, the head of all the clans, and a special guest. The general public will not be made aware of your appointment as Hokage until the public ceremony, which we will immediately begin preparing for and hope that it will only take a couple of weeks until then. That said, however, we humbly ask that you continue to live your everyday life while still performing your duties as Hokage. Of course, you have every right not to. Naruto nodded as Shikaku took out another scroll and opened it up and began reading notes off of it. Now, as you know, being Hokage means you are the absolute ruler of Konoha, your word is law and nobody is above your rule. If you feel like someone deserves a promotion, they will get a promotion. If you wish to change the symbol will be changed. If you wish to ban trading, it will be banned. If you wish to change the dress code, it will be changed, and if you wish for someone to die. They will die. Naruto gulped as he nodded his head as Shikaku undid more of the scroll. You will have a constant security detail escorting you, though you can of course keep it minimal and the Anbu will never make their presence known unless you call on them. The head of the clans are no different than anyone else, they are not above you, and should you feel that one is acting out of line, a team of Jonin will be sent to deal with them. Naruto felt more sweat fall down his face as he nodded, realizing how terrible it could be if the wrong person became Hokage. Finally, you will have many things to make decisions on, though of course, you can give the duty to someone else if you wish. You will also never be removed from power unless it's because of death or resignation, and should it be by resignation, you shall continue to live your life in luxury and be well protected. Shikaku folded the scroll back up afterward as he placed it back into his vest as Naruto processed all of the information given to him. Any questions? Just one. Will I be allowed out of the village? While we strongly discourage it, we can't stop you. As I mentioned, you are the ruler of this village, and no one can stop you from doing anything you want. The law doesn't apply to you, there are no rules. Naruto gulped once again as he sat back in his seat as he looked outside and saw the sun shining on all the buildings as the carriage slowly moved past them all. Naruto kept watching the buildings slowly go by before he looked at Kakashi. Kakashi-sensei, I guess this means we won't be able to train anymore, huh? Well, there isn't any rule against it. Although that jutsu I was telling you about. You can order me just to teach it to you if you want. No. I want to earn it. I may have achieved my dream but I can't stop now. I'm going to get a new dream, and it will be even bigger and better. Naruto gripped his seat as determination filled his eyes, making Kakashi smile. The chariot continued as the three inside went quiet, questions filling all of their minds as the sun got higher and higher, as all the Jonin walking alongside the chariot kept watch over everything. As the chariot approached the tower, many of the Chunin who were assigned to guard immediately tensed up a little as they saw the chariot pull in. They didn't know who it was, all they knew was that the Hokage was in that chariot and they knew to show proper respect. Aruka was one of the Chunin as a part of him tightened up as the chariot got closer and closer to the tower until it finally came to a stop, just a few feet away from him. The doors opened as sweat rolled down his face. Shikaku and Kakashi both exited the chariot first, and each of them took a side right beside the door to the inside of the chariot as all of the Chunin and even the Jonin watched the chariot, awaiting their next leader. Aruka kept his eyes trained on the chariot, and soon it shook as a hooded figure descended the steps. Indeed, to prevent the news from spreading, the next Hokage had been cloaked in a black cloak and had their face covered with an old Anbu mask. The masked Hokage looked around as none of the Jonin with the chariot moved, their eyes still watching every corner around. However, as soon as the Hokage began walking towards the tower, they all started walking in unison, surrounding the Hokage like a barrier to prevent anyone from getting close and seeing him. As they got closer to him, Aruka straightened up and placed his fist over his heart to salute the Hokage as the Jonin all lined up beside the door like an alleyway as the masked Hokage walked in between them and entered into the tower, making Aruka sweat drop when they walked by him. Aruka did notice that the new Hokage seemed to be short, but he brushed it aside as being a genjutsu used to fool everyone even more. Once the Hokage was through the door, all of the Jonin with him lined up and entered into the tower, with the door closing right behind them as Aruka heard the door lock, as his heart was practically beating out of his chest from nervousness. After a few moments, he realized that he had kept a breath in, and let it out as soon as he noticed while sweat poured down his face, his heart still beating uncontrollably. The only thoughts entering into his mind were that he had to get serious now, as his new leader was inside of the building he was guarding and he had to give his life to protect him. Once he was inside of the tower, Naruto stopped walking as Shikaku went to the wall and hit a hidden panel as the floor started to move and revealed a staircase heading down. All of the Jonin headed down while Kakashi and Shikaku got on each side of Naruto as Shikaku spoke. We're going to take a left at the bottom and enter into the door. Inside is the dressing room where we'll get you into your robes. Naruto just nodded. Having been told not to speak until they were in the hidden passage as they began the walk down the steps, Shikaku and Kakashi staying with him stride for stride until they reached the bottom as the floor closed back up as the trio took a left and finally entered into the dressing room. Once inside, Naruto let out a sigh as he took off his mask and black cloak and placed it on a chair inside, while Shikaku and Kakashi both waited for him. Man, walking past Aruka-sensei and not saying anything to him wasn't easy. Shikaku gave a smile as he walked over and placed a hand on Naruto's shoulder. Well, in just a couple of weeks you'll be able to talk to him all you want about your new position. Now I have to head onto the ceremony room and give the opening remarks. During that time, Kakashi will help you get into your robes. Near the end of my speech, one of the Jonin will come and tell you to come on, and you will then proceed to the door on the right of the staircase and wait until I introduce you. Afterward, you will walk down the aisle and to the front where I will deem you the 5th Hokage and place the hat on you. Any questions? Do I have to say anything? Only if you want to, otherwise I'll give the ending remarks with you right beside me and then we'll head on up to the office and get started. Naruto nodded as Shikaku gave a smile before he walked to the door and pointed at Kakashi. Well, Kakashi, see you at the ceremony. Yeah, see you there. Silence came over the two after the door was shut, as Kakashi and Naruto stood in the room together, neither one moving as time ticked on and on. So how long do you think it will be until I'm called for? Well, Shikaku figured you might have some nerves, so he's going to try to stretch it out for about an hour. His remarks will consist of a brief history of all the Hokages before you, and then he'll start explaining your life story to everyone, even if all the Jonin and clan's leaders already know the truth. The truth. Naruto gave Kakashi a questioning look as he shrugged and leaned against the wall. Since you're now Hokage, you're going to find out sooner or later. However, someone specifically requested to tell you, so I'll keep quiet about it for now. Unless you want me to go ahead and tell you, Naruto. Ah no, if someone wants to tell me, I'm sure it's for a reason that it's them. Naruto went quiet again as he looked around the dressing room. It wasn't grand or anything, consisting of a few chairs, a large mirror, and makeup set on the front table should he choose to wear any. However, what caught Naruto's eye was the robes hanging right beside the mirror. Naruto gulped as he felt his heart trying to beat right out of his chest as he walked towards them. Once he was just a few feet from them, he reached out and touched them, the pure silk easily being felt. They were specifically made for you. Had the best designers in the village work on that for hours to make sure it was perfect. Naruto looked back at Kakashi and nodded as he kept running his hand over the robes. The robes were exquisite, being white that reached down to his feet with a red keffiyeh that covered the chest and back with the symbol of Konoha on both sides and the kanji for Hokage under it. Naruto kept staring at them until he finally spoke after seemingly becoming lost in their sight. This is real. I'm Hokage. Yeah, you finally achieved your dream, Naruto. Naruto kept looking at the robes before his hand dropped to the side as he looked back at Kakashi with a lost look. Am I ready though? I'm sure there were more qualified candidates, right? In terms of pure skill, most certainly. But you weren't chosen just based off of skill. You were chosen for many reasons. One is your personality, always looking on the positive side. Another is your knowledge. Despite your grades, you're smarter than you let on. You still need training, but you have the potential to become one of the strongest in the village. You also fully believe in the people of this village and the village itself, and that in itself is a big reason you were chosen. I see, so in a way, it's because of what I can become, not because of who I am right now. I didn't say. No, it's fine, I know that was also one of the reasons. Which is fine, because that shows how much they believe in me. Naruto gripped his hand as he looked at Kakashi with another look of determination. I swear, Kakashi-sensei, I'll be the best Hokage you've ever met, believe it. Hey, I hope so. My life is yours to command, after all, Hokage-sama. Naruto went red from embarrassment as he quickly swung his hands. Can you just call me Naruto, Kakashi-sensei? It feels weird if you call me Hokage. Kakashi let out a small laugh as he walked over to Naruto and nodded. Sure. Though some of the others might find it weird if they hear the Hokage calling me sensei. Then I'll only do it when we're alone or with Sakura and Sasuke. Kakashi nodded as he looked over at the robes and motioned at them. Ready to put them on? Oh yeah, I guess I am. Kakashi walked over towards them as he instructed Naruto to undress down to his shirt and briefs. After taking off his orange sweatshirt, Naruto threw it onto one of the chairs as he undid the shorts he had on and also threw them to the chair, leaving him in just his white shirt and underwear. Alright, first, the robe. Naruto nodded as he closed his eyes with anticipation as Kakashi took the outfit off of the wall and placed the keffiyeh on the front table. He raised the robes as he draped it over Naruto, who stood perfectly still until it was on and his head came out the top. Go ahead and put your arms through. Naruto nodded as he moved his arms around until he found the sleeves and placed them through until both were out. Once that was settled, Kakashi straightened out the robes some before picking the keffiyeh off of the table and putting it over Naruto's head, as he proceeded to straighten it out and make sure it was even. After making sure the robe was perfectly on, Kakashi patted Naruto on the shoulder as he opened his eyes. Take a look in the mirror. Naruto turned towards the mirror and was amazed to see himself in the actual Hokage robes, something he had dreamed about since he was a kid. He then finally looked down at the robes as he moved around in them. Wow, they do fit perfectly. Told you they would. Now, go ahead and take off your headband. Whenever you're wearing your robes, it's best to either hide it or not wear it at all. Since we have nothing to hide it with right now, go ahead and give it to me. Naruto nodded as he looked in the mirror and undid his headband before he gave it to Kakashi, who folded it up and placed it on the table. Now, the final piece. Naruto gave him a questioning look as Kakashi walked forward and stuck his hand into Naruto's robe pocket as he pulled out 2 white gloves. He motioned for Naruto's hands, which Naruto complied as Kakashi placed the gloves onto his hands, making sure they were firmly on each side, as now his entire body but his face was covered in his new outfit. Comfortable. Ah yeah, very. This is really comfortable actually. Glad to hear. Never been good at dressing people, so I'm glad I did a decent job here. Naruto gave a small laugh as he kept looking at the robes until he looked at Kakashi. Hey I was wondering something. What is it? Would it be alright if Aruka-sensei came in here? I know Shikaku-sensei said to wait until the public ceremony, but Naruto sighed as Kakashi just smirked as he nodded. Considering he was one of the few people to look out for you as you grew up, I don't see any problem with it. Hehe, thanks sensei. As the morning sun illuminated the area, Aruka continued to observe the many people who were looking at the tower from afar. Sure, they wouldn't be able to see anything thanks to the genjutsu placed on it, but a buzz was in the air around the village about the new Hokage after the entire area around the tower was closed off, causing many people to think that the new Hokage had been decided upon. Of course, not only had he been decided on, but he was about to be introduced to the village leaders, making Aruka highly vigilant as he watched every inch and corner, making sure nobody had somehow got around all the security. However, as he continued to watch, he jumped a little when he heard the door unlock as he immediately saluted, thinking the new Hokage was already done. However, when the door opened, Kakashi walked outside and closed the door behind him, making Aruka drop his salute. Kakashi. Aruka, I see everything is going well. Ah yeah, no problems that I can see so far. However, the fact you're out here means something's wrong, doesn't it? Actually no, everything is going according to plan so far, just have a request by the Hokage. Aruka tilted his head in confusion as Kakashi spoke. The Hokage wishes to meet with you, Aruka. What? Aruka was taken aback as Kakashi showed no signs of joking. Why? Well, you two know each other, and I'm guessing he wants to talk to you before his life is forever changed. We know each other. Kakashi nodded as he opened the door and stepped back. Well, since he called for you, you're technically his guest, so I'll lead you to where he is. But what about my post? No worries, someone will cover it for you. After all, the Hokage overrides all previous orders you were given. Why yeah, I know. Aruka gulped as he walked inside of the tower as Kakashi followed before closing the door and locking it back. Aruka felt his heart about to beat out of his chest as Kakashi lowered the stairs and led Aruka to the dressing room on the left, each step making him more and more nervous about who possibly was chosen as the 5th. Once the two of them reached the room, Kakashi made sure no one was following them as he opened it and allowed Aruka to head inside. Once inside, Aruka noticed how nice and well kept the room was, not the most impressive but a nice dressing room. As Aruka scanned the room over, his eyes stopped when he locked eyes with the person standing in the middle of the room, Naruto. Hey, Aruka-sensei. Aruka raised an eyebrow as he took a step forward. What are you doing here? Isn't this where the Aruka's words caught in his mouth as he noticed what Naruto was wearing with the white robes. But he also noticed the symbol of the village and the Hokage kanji on his keffiyeh as he stopped in his tracks as his eyes moved back up to Naruto's face. Hokage. Naruto. You. Naruto gave an embarrassed smile as he scratched the back of his head. Why yeah. I'm the 5th Hokage, Aruka-sensei. Aruka kept staring at Naruto as his mouth slowly went agape as he looked back at Kakashi. Is he telling the truth? Yes he is. Naruto. Or rather, the Hokage-sama is telling the truth. Aruka's eyes went wide as his mouth opened even more as he looked back at Naruto, who was still smiling and rubbing the back of his head as he slowly walked over to him, each step making his heart beat faster and faster. Naruto. I can't believe it, I mean. Hokage. Aruka closed his mouth and gulped as he kept looking Naruto over. Naruto. Aruka felt a tear run down his face as he quickly wiped it off as he smiled at Naruto, who returned the smile with a smug grin. I told you, Aruka-sensei, I told you I would become Hokage. Yes. Yes, you did. Aruka's smile grew even wider as he laid a hand on Naruto's shoulder. I'm sorry for doubting you a few times, but you proved me wrong like you have so many other times in the past. Naruto nodded as he pumped his fists together as he spoke. I hope I'll keep proving you wrong, sensei. It's what I do best after all. Hey, I can't deny that you always prove me wrong, Naru. Hokage-sama. Aruka felt more tears run down his face as he saluted to Naruto and bowed on one knee towards him as Naruto was still taken aback from the gesture but gave a confident smile as he nodded. Hehe. I'm glad to hear, sensei. Aruka wiped away more tears as he stood back up with a smile that a father might use when he was more than proud of his son, although kind of like with Kakashi-sensei, can you still call me Naruto? It's weird hearing anything else from you. Hey, guess I can't refuse an order from the Hokage, huh? Yeah, that's fine. Although I'm no longer above you, so from now on, be sure to call me Aruka. You sure thing, Aruka-sensei. I mean Aruka. Aruka laughed as he patted Naruto on the shoulder once again. Well, practice makes perfect, I guess. The two of them shared a laugh before Aruka gave a confident look at Naruto. The people of this village might not accept you, Naruto, they never have. But I think that can change, and I think it will change. You've proven me wrong time and time again, now it's time to prove them wrong, alright? This is the last order you'll ever going to hear from me, which is to make this village believe in you. Naruto got a stern look as he nodded before smiling, of course. I'll do it. I'll not only make them believe in me, but I'll also make sure no kid ever has to go through what I went through, believe it. As the final task assigned by you, I'll gladly do it, Aruka-sensei. Aruka nodded as a knock was heard on the door before an older woman opened it. Hokage-sama, it's almost time. Naruto nodded as he looked back at Aruka. Well, I guess it's time for my private ceremony. You want to come? Thanks, but I have a more important job right now, which is protecting you. I'll make sure that as long as I live, nothing ever hurts you, Naruto. That's my promise, not as a teacher, but as a friend. Then I promise this. I'll make sure that I'll lead this village into the best age of its lifetime so the kids you teach won't have to worry about the stuff we worry about. That's a promise as both a friend and as the Hokage. Hey, I'm glad to hear. Naruto nodded as Aruka and him shared a quick hug before he walked over to Kakashi and nodded as Naruto left the room with the older lady as Kakashi looked at Aruka. I'll give you credit. You believed in him when no one else did, Aruka. All I can say is, thank you. Aruka looked surprised for a moment before he smiled and nodded. Well, I'm his bodyguard until he says I'm not anymore, so I need to head on. Might want to hurry back to your shift before the other Chunin finds out. Hehe, right. Kakashi left the room as Aruka stood in the middle of it as more tears ran down his face as he clenched his hand. Naruto. Never lose that spirit of yours. Naruto followed the old lady down the hallway with Kakashi close behind as sweat rolled down his face. Whether it was because of the moment or because how hot the hall wasn't entirely known, though if one had to guess it was because of both. As the footsteps echoed throughout the hallway, the door to the ceremony room came into view when they rounded a corner as the trio stopped right outside of it. The woman beckoned for Naruto to stand beside her, which when he did so, he was able to hear Shikaku on the other side of the door. I say this because we are at a defining moment in our history. We have concealed the truth, and we have made Hokage-sama's life hell because of it, yet what has he done? He has continued to love the people of this village, and every day he trains so he can be strong enough to protect them. I don't know how many other people would be willing to do that if they went through the hell he's been through. Naruto gulped as he heard that phrase again, about hiding the truth. He still didn't know what the village had been hiding, yet it scared him a little. Yet he had long chosen not to hold a grudge against the village. Of course, Jiraiya played a significant role in that decision. Naruto felt a pat on his back from Kakashi before he had walked over to the door with the old woman, each of them grabbing one of the handles as they faced each other as Naruto's heart began to beat right out of his chest. I want to end my speech with this. Don't judge him because of lies that have been spread, or some of the childish things he did in the past. He risked his life to save this village during Orochimaru's attacks despite just going through a grueling match in the Chunin exams. I ask that everyone here will support him, and help this village grow. Now, I ask for everyone to stand and salute, as I introduce to you the 5th Hokage of Konoha, Naruto Uzumaki. Naruto immediately heard the sound of drums as Kakashi and the old woman nodded as they pushed the doors open, revealing a medium-sized room with a giant flag on the back wall with the crest of the village. A grand stage in the middle with pews rounding out the sides, each one having the village symbol inscribed on it. When the doors opened, several Jonin were positioned on the side with the flag of the village with drummers playing the village's anthem. Naruto gulped as he began walking forward. Each time he passed a pair of Jonin holding flags, they lowered them out of respect for him. As Naruto walked, he looked around, saw all the dominant clan's heads facing him with their fists over their chest, none of them showing any emotion but respect towards him. As Naruto walked, he saw that the very front pew only had one person sitting on it, and was shocked to see Jiraiya, who was saluting like the rest, yet he had a smile on his face, and when Naruto's eyes met his, Naruto swore he saw a tear on Jiraiya's face, though after one of the flags was lowered obstructing it for just a moment, it was gone when he passed by the flag. The two looked at each other for just a moment before Naruto gave a smile and nod to him before he looked back towards the front where Shikaku and the other members of the Jonin Council were standing as they saluted him. Naruto stopped right before the stairs as he let out one long sigh as he began walking up them before he stopped right in front of Shikaku, as the drummers played out the rest of the anthem before finally finishing up as Shikaku lowered his fist and motioned Naruto to his stand on his right as he got back in front of the podium. Ladies and gentlemen, it is my high honor to officially complete Naruto-sama's appointment as Hokage as I bestow upon him the sacred hat that has been passed down from the very first. One of the Jonin off to the side brought the hat over as it rested on a pillow as Shikaku picked it up and looked at Naruto, butterflies ravaging his stomach when he saw the hat. Naruto Uzumaki, by appointment of the Fire Daimyo, and as approved by the Jonin Council, you are hereby deemed the 5th Hokage of Konoha. Shikaku took the hat and placed it on top of Naruto's head as everyone in the room immediately kneeled towards him as Shikaku spoke once more. From this day forth, we are yours to serve, and just like in Naruto's room, the entire audience said in unison, Hokage-sama. Naruto's breath caught in his throat as he looked across everyone in awe, the moment still not fully hitting him until everyone stood back up still saluting as Shikaku motioned for the podium, as if to ask if Naruto wished to speak. After thinking for a moment, Naruto nodded as Shikaku bowed and stepped back as Naruto got in front of the podium and looked across everyone, the weight on his shoulders growing heavier. I didn't have a speech prepared beforehand. After all, just 2 hours ago I was dreaming about ramen, hey. Naruto gave a small laugh. Some of the clansmen shared the laugh though most just smiled at him as he continued. But to say this is an honor would be an understatement. Ever since I was a child, I have dreamt of becoming Hokage, and I always used that as motivation to keep moving forward. Of course, that wasn't the only reason I was able to move forward. People like Aruka, Kakashi and Jiraiya was also a big reason. Naruto looked over at Jiraiya as the two of them shared a smile, but I know that the real fight starts here. This village was just involved in one of the worst attacks we have ever seen, and many people lost their lives or at the very least lost loved ones. One of my teammates and friends, you all know him as Sasuke Uchiha, is currently still in a coma because of that attack. One of my first duties as Hokage is not only to help this village rebuild, but also to hunt down and kill Orochimaru, for not only that vile attack but also because he killed a great man in the third Hokage. Everyone in the room lost their smile as they nodded and had severe and attentive looks plastered onto their face, the hate for Orochimaru surfacing. Speaking of the third. I'm not him, I understand that. I'll never be as great of a leader as he was, nor will I ever be as strong as he was. Yet I'll do my best to fill his shoes as I promise his memory will never be forgotten. Everyone nodded as some of the third's family such as Asuma cast a downwards look as Naruto went to finish up. I ask that everyone here guides me, because if I try to do everything by myself, then it won't end well. This village is as powerful as it is, because we all work together, not because one man asserts his will. I'll be coming to everyone here for advice often, and I hope that you all are willing to give it to me. Most of the audience nodded as many were impressed by Naruto's sudden maturity, something he had never displayed to them before. I want to end this by asking a simple question. I know that many people were more qualified than I am, or may ever be. I want to ask, and also want to state that there will be no repercussions for speaking if anyone here feels that I am not ready for the job. Everyone looked at each other to see if anyone actually had any objections. It seemed there was none. Until, I have something to say. Everyone in the room immediately became tense as an old man came out from one of the pews and stood in the middle of the room, directly facing Naruto as the Jonin and clansmen all went on guard, yet Naruto took a deep breath and nodded. I see. You may continue. Now I don't have any objections to you, Hokage-sama, yet. I want to make sure you're going to do something the third never did. That would be compensation. The third ordered for my brother and his wife to be killed, leaving our clan without a true leader. We're already facing a crisis as our members are getting lower and lower every year. Everyone in the room glared at the man as Naruto kept his poker face on. May I ask who you are and what clan you represent? HMPH, my name is Unkai Kurama from the Kurama clan. Shikaku went over to Naruto to tell him who they were but. The clan that specializes in genjutsu, correct? Shikaku was surprised Naruto knew who they were, yet he saw Jiraiya nodding in approval, making him realize who Naruto learned that from. As expected of the Hokage, then you know that the third ordered for my brother and his wife to be killed in a house fire, correct? Naruto kept looking over the man as he gave a sigh and swung his head. I'm afraid I don't know any details concerning that event. HMPH. Well, it happened. I know that for a fact, and I believe my clan deserves compensation. Unkai, tell me something, are you the head of your clan? Huh, no. I'm a part of the branch family. I see. Then are you the representative of your clan, or is the clan's leader here? Unkai went silent for a moment as he looked back at the pew he was sitting on. No, I came as the escort for the clan leader. Then, I ask for the clan leader to come out and speak please. After a moment of silence, a young girl, not much older than Naruto, if not the same age, stepped out. Wearing a pink kimono and brown hair, she stopped beside her uncle as she looked at Naruto stone-faced. I'm assuming you're Yakumo Kurama. My father was the head of our clan until his death. I'm now the head of my clan with my uncle guiding me for now. Naruto nodded as he motioned for her to continue. I believe the third Hokage ordered for my parents to be killed, just as my uncle said. May I ask why you believe this? I overheard the third speaking, and he said that if I became too much of a threat, then he would order me to be killed. This is because of my powers thanks to my bloodline. Yes, I've learned that the most powerful members of your clan have a Kekkei Genkei so strong that it can make illusion a reality. That's correct. Naruto nodded as he noticed Kurenai with a semi-guilty look on her face, making him interested in the story behind it. Well, as I have told your uncle, I don't know the full events of what happened with your parents. But I want to state that I knew the third very well. He was one of my mentors growing up, and because of that I can't see him doing something as heinous as that. But, however, Naruto spoke on top of her as he gave a stern look. I also understand that tough decisions have to be made sometimes and that nobody is perfect. We sometimes do things for the greater good, even if it means making sacrifices, so I can't say it didn't happen. So because of that, I want to apologize on behalf of the third and myself formally. Naruto did a small bow towards the two of them, as everyone was taken aback by the action, especially Yakumo. I will review what happened that night, and then I'll talk to you about any compensation that I believe is worthy. I know that nothing will ever bring your parents back, but I hope I can help ease the pain some. Yakumo was quiet for a minute before she wiped her face off as she did about Naruto. Thank you, Hokage-sama. Naruto gave a smile and nodded as she straightened herself and went back to her pew to sit down. I hope this is satisfactory for now, Unkai. Unkai didn't say anything as he just turned and went back his seat as everyone kept their glares on him. Now, does anyone else have anything to say? Everyone looked around, and this time, they were even more sure they had no objections as Naruto let out a laugh. Then, I want to thank everyone here, and I officially turn it back over to Shikaku for the closing remarks. Everyone saluted when Naruto walked to the side as Shikaku took back over as he looked across everyone. I believe any fears we had about his maturity has been answered. I also don't believe any more has to be said. Hokage-sama, every one of us here pledged to serve you. Everyone in the room saluted as Shikaku said one last thing. This concludes the ceremony for Naruto Uzumaki as the 5th Hokage of Konoha. Everyone let out a cheer as the drums began playing again as Shikaku led Naruto down the aisle as the flags were lowered once again when he walked by, as some of the clansmen either bowed towards him or reached their hands out as Naruto shook them, a bit overwhelmed by the moment as a goofy grin was plastered on his face. From the door though, Kakashi just watched, a smile present under his mask. Naruto. When Jiraiya said you had a hidden mature side, I didn't think it meant you could hold the presence that a Hokage would hold. This village is in safe hands under you. I hope the people around you lead you in the right direction.